Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
And here we are today to actually talk about Kipo.
Yay!
Season 3, episodes 3 and 4. And I also say that because I just finished editing like our episode 7, this, where we completely blew those second 2 episodes, and it was hilarious. It was like, we had such high hopes. And then we talked about Scarlemagne for an hour.
I kind of love it. And the thing is, kind of terribly, I'm so happy that we're doing this in just like 1 or 2 episode spurts because it is making the season last longer. I would be so sad if we did it in 334 and the whole thing was over in 3 episodes. I would be so upset.
I know.
But also, how would we talk about everything that happens in 4 episodes of Kipo?
Not about this show, we wouldn't. Absolutely not. Although we did get a couple of montages in these episodes, which I think skipped a little bit of quote-unquote plot. No,
that's true. I mean, listen, we'll say it here. Oh, this will be a shorter episode. There's less for us to talk about. And then, an hour and 20 minutes here will be.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Good luck with that. We'll see what happens. The ultimate last words. But no, these were great episodes. I really enjoy them. I think we hit a lot of the beats of how our characters have grown, and how the characters want to have grown, and like how that plays out.
No, 100%.
And yeah, we open
with episode 3, a wolf in wolf's clothing.
And I love that, like, Dr. Amelia and her crew are scavenging for supplies to start their lab back up again. And Greta just wants to buy noodles.
Noodles! Okay, but those noodles looked really good.
They did. How did I know you were going to say that?
Yes. Well, they did. The sad thing is,
they genuinely did. Although they were in like a bag, which made like a bag, like a Dorito chip bag.
Oh, no.
Which made me
Joy, like a little
skeptical.
Bit. In like, as soon as we're done recording this episode, I'm going to show you a couple of the instant noodles I have in my cupboard, and they are in bags like that.
Oh my God, really?
Yes, they are.
I didn't know that was a thing. I had no idea.
I'll show you
learn
afterwards.
Something new every day on Binge O'Clock.
The thing that would be so disappointing about those noodles is that the picture on the front clearly has like pieces of ham and some scallion, but that's stuff you have to add later. It's not in the packet, so.
Absolutely not. Yeah, you have to, that's those ramen, like the ramen extraordinaire professionals who are just like, yes, this is what I add to my ramen. Meanwhile, I am that, definitely that white person college age of just like, no, I'm just going to have the noodles and broth. Thank you.
Listen, there's absolutely nothing wrong with noodles and broth. I just I know in my heart that Greta would be so disappointed in those noodles because she's thinking it's going to look like the picture and it is not.
This, we both agree. Greta is 100% thinking that is exactly what is in that bag, and she would be mistaken. But no, you should show me those bags. I would be really interested. See, you learned something new. But so they're scavenging, and then part of the family of wolves that Wolf was raised in, that's going to get interesting real quick. I'll try not to do that every time. Wolf's wolf family.
Wolf's wolf family. Wolf's the wolf meal.
Yes, exactly. Are hiding in the ceiling, and then there's a noise. They get chased out, but the brother gets taken, and the sister, who is the same sister who grew up at, like the same age as Wolf, escapes. Or actually, we don't see what happens. We just kind of see like a shadow come over her, and then it kind of cuts to black.
I mean, again, not hard to put 2 and 2 together on this one. I wasn't exactly surprised with the little, ooh, it's a trap. Like, we all knew it was a trap, right?
Yeah.
But
we definitely know by the time we see her again.
Yeah.
And she's talking about how her brother is being held captive in
Deathstalker territory.
Deathstalker territory by the Deathstalkers who don't talk?
I'm like,
we're just nightmares. You know what I mean? Like, I would have, of anybody, I would have thought Wolf would have been like, this seems suspicious.
Right.
Because, like, do they take their prey and, like, hold them captive? Like, what?
I mean, I guess they did say that the Deathstalkers tend to, like, knock out their prey and then carry their prey back to their nests. So maybe she's thinking, like, there's still a chance we could get him before he becomes a Deathstalker snack, you know?
Right.
But, which explains, you know, kind of her desperation, why she runs out there so quickly. But no, I agree. I think it was a pretty obvious lie.
It was a leap. It was a leap
Granted, we have the benefit of knowing that Dr. Amelia captured them, right? Like, Wolf doesn't know that.
We have the benefit of knowing that.
For all they know, Dr. Amelia is, like, still on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean and doesn't even have a lab, you know? She probably got up and running
because her lab exploded. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, there's definitely that moment of, like, we meaning, like, our A team does not fully realize that Dr. Amelia is still actually a threat.
Yeah. Because like, they thought that they destroyed the lab and the journal.
Exactly. But like, it's not that they're just not a threat, but they are a threat. They exist out there. And, you know, she's spreading her lies to humans. And it's like, you have to balance that with, like, the mutes coming together and more of the unification that Kipo is trying to do. But the urgency isn't there because it's like, well, she doesn't have a lab. She can't make her cure, but at least I can unify people against her so we have a larger force.
Right, exactly.
So I don't want to say that Kipo is doing nothing because she's definitely doing something. She's trying to unify people.
I agree. She is doing something. It's just that she's, like you said, focusing her efforts more on H.M.U.F.A because she knows she doesn't really have to worry as much about Dr. Amelia right now. And so
Did we talk last time about how bad H.M.U.F.A was for a name?
I think that I said something about how it is the most Kipo name ever.
Yeah, it is H.M.U.F.A.
H.M.U.F.A, Friendship Forever Alliance. That's terrible.
That's terrible. But yes, continue.
But no, to that end, what many of the mutes have expressed to her is that part of the reason they don't want to join H.M.U.F.A is that Scarlemagne is right there. And they're still really scared of him. So she decides, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get Scarlemagne to genuinely apologize to the other mutes. And that's, I suppose we would call it the B plot of this episode. I don't know if I call it, because I feel like Wolf and what's going on with Wolf is really the heart of this episode, right? I don't know, though. It's hard to tell.
It is kind of hard to tell. It's you know, we sort of have a couple episode arc here. Right? Like what happens in this episode has a direct effect on the next episode. So yes, I think technically, and even the episode after that, which it ties up pretty well at the end of the second episode that we watched.
Yeah.
I mean, just in the Dr. Amelia is there trying to, you know, get the kids and trying to get Kipo to come for them and all, you know, that whole plot line sort of ties itself off, so to speak, at the end of that second episode.
Yeah. So, you know, being that Scarlemagne's arc carries into the next episode, maybe let's talk about Wolf first.
Okay.
Wolf and Margot.
Yeah. I think we can. I mean, this is the other thing with so many episodes in this show. So many of the episodes tie together anyway.
Yeah.
That I feel like we're just gonna gloss through from first episode to second episode.
No, that's fair. I just think, you know, Margot is solidly episode 3.
Yeah. No, Margot is Margot is such a weird character. I don't know how to feel about her.
Really? Okay, I want to hear about this. I mean, I know that you literally just said, I don't know how I feel about her. And my follow-up was about to be like, but how do you feel about her?
But how do you feel about her? Well, so Margot is this very... Let's unpack that. Let's talk more about this interesting wolf child. There's this sort of continued innocence about her that I don't trust.
Yeah.
Even as she's lying to them and deceiving them, and even as she's comes clean and explains it, like she does, like her demeanor doesn't change from one to the other. So that tells me that she lies fairly easily.
I gotta say, like on top of her demeanor, just because this is minor but also not so minor, I don't understand why she's still that age.
Right?
Like she just...
Like why is she still...
Not only is she acting young,
not age?
She is literally young. And when they first told us when we first learned about Wolf's backstory, like Wolf started visibly younger and has since aged and had like a whole life in her apartment and then met Kipo.
It's been 5 years.
It's been a lot. Why isn't this Wolf older?
You know, the mute ages, I will say this, it's a little difficult to tell mute ages and like where we are in their life cycles in comparison to the human beings.
Yeah, but I think like, the fact that
I was trying to figure out the math of Hugo a couple episodes ago that I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
You know?
But the fact that Wolf has aged and we've kind of seen her go through that process. Like, I know we haven't literally seen her go through that process, but we've seen so many phases of her life.
No, we've seen enough.
Yeah.
We've seen enough to know like at what age she was when she went out on her own. And like the Wolf we're seeing can't be more than what, 12, 13?
Exactly. So like she's still a child, but this Wolf looks like they're, I don't know, 7, 8 at the best, you know? So I agree. I think
You're not wrong.
It's not her demeanor. It's also the fact that she looks like a baby next to them.
I know. You're not wrong. And there's just this continued, like, you know, one of those friends who you haven't talked to in a while and you reconnect, but like you remember the argument and they don't, or maybe you remember the argument a different way than it happened. You know, or like, you know, when you tell a story, there's 3 ways to tell a story, that kind of thing. But it's like there's no way to gloss over the fact that this family of wolves decided to hunt Wolf.
Yes.
Like
that Margot joined in on it. And she tries to give her little explanation, like, you know, the adults around me. I can't remember exactly how she explained it.
But she explains it 2 different ways. I think the first thing she said was like, well, if I didn't hunt you, you would have hunted me.
Ah, yeah.
And Wolf says something like,
no.
No. Why on earth would you think that? What?
Right.
And then the second time is just like, well, you know, I was scared of my parents and I did what my parents told me to do.
Yeah.
And like, again, in this sort of apologetic tone. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know anything about you.
Yeah. You know, no, I agree. When she was scared and she thought she didn't have a choice, the adults just set it up as if this is what you do. Right.
Exactly.
But even if that's your way, even if that's the best explanation that you have for something because you were literally a child in that situation, like on top of that, I think what's frustrating is what you touched on, which is that even if that is your excuse, you should on top of that be remorseful. But it's like, since that is her explanation, she's not remorseful. And she kind of just thinks that she can move forward in her friendship with Wolf, ignoring what happened in the past. And Wolf is like, no, I think she literally says, you don't get to do that. You don't get to just be friends with me.
Yeah. This is not that story.
Yeah.
Like, we are not here to tell that story.
Like, I'm here to help save Rupert because it's the right thing to do. And Kipo has taught me that you should always do the right thing. That does not mean that we're friends. And that doesn't mean I'm ready to be friends with you.
to forgive you at all.
All.
I also really love that, like, she does that for the benefit of Scarlemagne, who just kind of sneers at her and turns around.
Because I'm a good person. Deep down. Deep.
Just like every time they say deep in this episode, like, take a drink of water.
I know, it's so good. Watra.
The Watra.
So now, while all of this is happening, the show attempts to kind of lighten the situation by introducing Benson and Dave, right? Because everything we've described so far is kind of intense, you know?
Yeah, it's really heavy. Like, they're, you know, Margot and Wolf are like, you know, doing some of that, like, old training stuff they used to do. And one of you races to the other end of the thing. And, like, it's so intense. And the 2 of them are so intense. And it's obviously awkward. And Dave and Benson are doing, I wrote it, what did I write it down as? It was like a comedically overprotective Dave and Benson are with Margot and Wolf. And it's so beautiful because Wolf can 100% take care of herself.
Oh, yeah. Like, Benson and Dave can do absolutely nothing to protect her if Margot actually decides to go after her. But they're doing everything they can just to kind of show her that they support her. I don't know if they actually know that they're not helping, but like Dave, when he hasn't blinked in how many hours, his bloodshot eyes.
It was hurting before, but now it's fine, and now it's back to hurting. Oh God. And like I have to sneeze. Do you got her in your sights? Yeah, you know I do. You know, and the what was it that they said at the dog park? They both sneeze at
the same time. They're like, oh no, did she stab you in the back while we sneezed?
Did she stab you? How about now? Are you okay? And even Wolf, I think it's at the sneezing point that Wolf has to be like, guys, chill. It's fine. Like, I appreciate the help, but chill out.
And then good. It's fine. On top of that, they're just like insulting Margot every chance they get. You're no good to him alive.
Every word out of there. That's what it was. You're no good to him alive. Too far? No, not far enough. Well, it's such a beautiful, like, you know, and we've said it before of like, this is what the show, you know, the show will find a very good way to make you laugh. Mm-hmm. And my favorite part about this, which we kind of skipped over because we went straight to them going to help, quote unquote, help Margot's brother. But like, you know, when Margot first shows up in camp at the Timbercats forest, she immediately gets clocked by Wolf, and Wolf starts chasing her all around the forest. And Kipo like, is that Margot? Oh my God, do you need help? And it was like, nope, she's mine. I was like, okay, but I got you. Let's just say the word.
I respect your boundaries, but I'm here if you want me to trample her.
Yes. I loved what this did. And again, like, I know I've harped on this before, but like the storytelling is so solid in this show of like, we don't have to tell you the whole story of how Wolf came to confide in Benson, Dave, and Kipo as to about her family and who Margot was. And like, because what we got when we got the Wolf backstory was, you know, we got to see it.
Right.
But all she did was like, you know, I've been betrayed before. Oh, like we didn't get.
All we got to see was her thinking about it as she's running away from Benson. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Like we didn't see her give Benson the whole story, right? Like, and I love that in just the briefest of scenes, while Wolf is chasing Margot around, we understand that she's told Kipo, she's told Benson, she's told Dave, and they are all like, "Oh my God, that's Margot! Oh my God, do you need us to do anything?" You know, like it is instantaneous because it's like, you know, she wore, you know, like a schoolgirl outfit and she had flowers on her wrist, and like she's recognizable to us, the audience, and her friends, because obviously at some point she's been like, okay, so you want to know why I am the way I am? This is why.
Let me tell you. You know, like one night around the campfire, they were like, so we need you to tell us the story of the wolf skin. Like, what's going on there?
We need to, let's unpack this. Let's dive into those wounds. So this also brings up another thing of like, you know, Wolf wanting to do this for Margot, even though Margot doesn't deserve it. You know, Wolf's words, but like, this is what you do. You help people when they come to you and they ask for help, you help them. Yeah. And we also have this, I think it's a little later in the episode where she says something like when Margot is like, you know, I was afraid of my parents and I couldn't do anything about that. I had to do what they say. Wolf says that like, well, when you're afraid, that's when you need your friends the most. You shouldn't run away. Yes. Which I found amazing because that's exactly what Wolf did. Yeah. When Wolf got scared, Wolf ran away. Because that's how she's. I'm not talking about with, you know, Margot and Margot's family. I'm talking about when, you know, she found out that Kipo was a mute. Right. The first thing she did was to run. Right. It's a really interesting moment of like, I know that was not the right decision to make. Yeah.
An interesting moment of reflection.
Yes, exactly. And I really appreciate that. Like, that's the thing that she says to Margot of like, well, guess what? You shouldn't have done the thing. Right? You did the bad thing.
Exactly. You don't abandon your friends when you're scared. That's when you need them the most.
Yeah.
Which, of course.
Our girl's growing.
She's growing. She's learning.
I know. I just wish,
what about Dave's giant eyes as she's talking through this whole thing? Like, actually, what I also love in this entire conversation is that Dave is yet again just being the best hype man. You know, like, he is leading the conversation. He is asking the questions that he knows will lead Wolf to explain herself to Margot, because that isn't really Wolf's inclination. You know, Wolf would rather just not talk about it, right? But Dave is like, but what about this? Like, but what about that? Like, then what happened next, you know? Finally ending with, wow, that should be a rule of the surface.
Yeah. I mean, it should. I mean, it shouldn't. It's a solid rule.
It's a solid rule. Next rule of the surface. And another thing that the episode does well with the show not tell is that this entire time, as Wolf has been watching them, as Wolf has been seeing Kipo back, as Margot has been watching them, right? And as Margot has seen Kipo back Wolf up, Benson and Dave along with her this entire time, that's why at the end she says, I'm glad you found the pack that you deserve.
And ultimately, I mean, I know I just hemmed and hawed about how I don't know how to feel about Margot. And I still don't know how to feel about Margot. But for all her, her sort of faults and for maybe misunderstanding how her falling out actually, like, what it meant to her versus what it meant to Wolf.
Yeah.
And, like, we also don't hear a lot about Margot's parents in this passage. Like, we don't even know if they survived, like, if they're still around.
Like,
it's been 5 years. Yeah, exactly.
They've got to be around. Like, I think the kids were probably just scavenging in order to bring something back home.
Sure.
I don't know, though.
And that's entirely possible. But it's just interesting to me that, like, she knew enough not to bring up her parents also. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't talk about anyone. She doesn't talk about any of her other brothers and sisters. She only talks about the one brother who's quote unquote in trouble.
Yep.
And, like, and I don't think Margot's a bad person. I think it's, I think I even said this when we were talking about that episode where the heel turn happens, of you get this moment where she could not do anything.
Yeah.
But instead she has it. She looks at her parents and she looks back at Wolf and she makes the decision to go after her.
Right.
It happens to people all the time, or someone in authority tells you to do something and you do it.
Mm-hmm. And in this episode, we see her making a different decision, right? Speaking of those heel turn moments, after she has this whole heartfelt talk with Wolf, they're getting closer and closer to the parking garage or wherever it is they're supposed to go. And before they get there, Margot admits that this is a trap and that Dr. Amelia wants to use Wolf, Benson, and Dave to get to Kipo, which is the end of episode 3.
Which is the end of episode 3.
Which, I mean, we didn't even talk about the Scarlemagne bits of episode 3, but that's the end of that plot line in episode 3.
Yes. Well, I think we can, and she even, the way it, like, ends is she tells them all this thing and, like, tries to kind of warn them off, and, like, don't let Dr. Amelia get you kind of thing. And then Dr. Amelia comes up over the hill and gets them.
Like, Dr. Amelia, who's always a step ahead, like, predicted that Margot would tell them before she got to the parking garage, and Dr. Amelia was right. Yeah. Because as much as I hate her, she's super smart, I guess.
She is super smart. I don't want to admit that because I don't like her. She's a meanie. She's fascist, and she's mean, and she's a eugenicist, and I don't like that. Mm-hmm. But the other, I guess it is kind of the B-ish plot. Mm-hmm. B plot in this episode, A plot in the next episode.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's more like it's B plot more because it's like a slow burn into episode 4, because episode 4 is where you get to, like, the meat of it. Yeah. But it's also a cool mirror to what's going on with Wolf and Margot, because really both parts of the episode are about apologies. And both parts of the episode are about, like, what is a real apology and how, or can you ask someone, can you expect someone to forgive you after you've apologized?
Right. Scarlemagne.
And the answer to that question, dear friends, is no. You cannot.
Is no. The answer is no. We'll spoil that for you right now. The answer is no. Scarlemagne, B-plot of this episode is so great because it mostly consists of Kipo trying to, and as you said, everyone has been like, we're scared of Scarlemagne, and he's right there, and it's like, well, if I can, basically show you that Scarlemagne has no, claws, quote unquote, he has no sort of, not power here, but you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to come after you all again. And why isn't he going to come after you all again? Because the giant jaguar can keep him in his place.
But it's not even, I don't even think it's that, right? Like if it were just, I promise that I can physically keep him away from you, then the cage would in theory be enough, right? But what the animals want is some indication that Scarlemagne not can't, but won't come after them again. Right?
Exactly.
Which is why the apology is so important. They're like, if you can get him to apologize, that will show that you have some influence over his choices. Right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think I love what they do with Scarlemagne because it's definitely, there's a moment in their early conversations about like, well, if you just apologize, right? That you can kind of tell he wants to apologize. Mm-hmm. Like, there was never a moment in this episode where I didn't think that he didn't have some kind of remorse over what he did. Mm-hmm. And it's more that people just won't believe his apology and people won't forgive him. And like, you can't, like some things you just can't apologize for, which he's not wrong, but like still making the apology is the first step to, offering if anybody could actually forgive him for what he did.
Yeah, I hear you on that because I think that's the question, right? That if you are apologizing for something because you want something specific from the other person, is it a genuine apology? Because
I mean, then the answer is kind of no.
The answer is kind of no, but I think that early on he wants to apologize. But the reason he wants to apologize isn't that he is sad or upset about anything that he did. It's that he knows that he lost, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that he wants to be out of his cage and he wants to be free, which is why, or in my mind at least, why he kept moving forward in the episode as Kipo decides like, all right, this is clearly not working. We need to get you out of the cage and we need to get you interacting with people because they can't get to know you when you're when you're behind a piece of glass. So there's this fantastic montage of Kipo taking Scarlemagne around to different parts of the camp and trying to like get him to help with certain chores. And every time he helps with something, he eventually finds the perfect moment to just like pick up whatever he's holding, smash it on the ground and like run away. But I don't think that he's running away because he wants to like
too.
I don't think he's running away because he wants to go do something evil. He's running away because he's like, what's the point? They're not gonna accept my apology. They're not gonna change their mind about me. They're never gonna become friends with me. Like I should just go.
Yeah. Like why are you keeping me here? Mm-hmm. Like there's that brilliant moment later on in the episode. And we're skipping a little bit of the stuff, but I promise we'll come back. Because one of my favorite pieces of that montage is also in there. But there's this brilliant moment of like, why are you doing this? And Kipo's like, well, if you apologize, then that, that gives us hope and that brings more people here and makes them feel safe. And and then Scarlemagne is like, well, then why don't you just let me go?
Right. Like, or kill me. Right.
Or like kill me.
Getting rid of me would make everyone join your cause. Why aren't you just killing me?
Yeah. And Kipo is like, well, but that's not all I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a good moment of a good leader being like, it doesn't have to be one way or the other for each individual people. Like it can be both. Mm-hmm. Both people have to decide that. I love, what was it? I think I wrote it down of like, I just want you to change your heart entirely and apologize.
Yeah, no, I think that was earlier in the episode. All I'm asking is for you to completely change your heart.
Yeah. I feel like I wrote down like the privilege of like liberals to just be like, but why can't you just change your entire opinion overnight? And I'm just like, yeah, well, we sometimes we get that way. Mm. Welcome to the club, Kipo.
Oh, Kipo.
It's weird here. But there, and as a part of that montage, and I like it because it's the last thing that happens, is like he can't, the thing he can't smash is their children. Because one of the things Kipo does is brings him to where the kids are playing with Yum-Yum, which, by the way, what a good babysitter Yum-Yum is.
So cute. He will snuggle. Was it, I will snuggle you all in this moment?
Snuggle you all. Yum-Yum snuggles you all. It's so good.
So cute.
But so, you know, like Yum-Yum's playing with them and, you know, Kipo brings Scarlemagne to, you know, this little clearing where they're playing, and Scarlemagne, no, it's actually, Kipo like scoops up one of the cats and hands this kitten to Scarlemagne, and Scarlemagne like takes it and does do the thing he's been doing with everything, where like he lifts it up into the air
as and if like does to throw it to the ground.
Does his like mandrill kind of call. And the thing is because he's holding a baby, the baby starts screaming and crying. Yeah. And he's like, oh, no, sorry.
Don't cry.
Don't do that. No. You know, like what some of us adults do of like, oh, no, I made it cry. How do I make it stop? Oh, no.
And then he plays with it. He's like, you're a frightening little timber kitten. And then he like gets the little timber kittens to chase him. And it's so cute.
Snuggle, what was it? Snuggle what? What was
Snuggle
her name?
Muffin, I want to say. I don't know. Something along
Snuggle
those lines.
Muffin. I'm pretty sure it's Snuggle Muffin. It was great.
Oh, so cute.
But like, I think that is sort of the turning point for him, where it's like these, you know, just like before, when the kids don't have this inherent, you know, sort of bigotry and divisiveness that their parents have. So do the kids not fully understand that Scarlemagne is necessarily dangerous. And it's that innocence of like, you know, the kids weren't or they didn't seem to be at like the Aurum fight.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't think any of the kids were there. You know, they may not fully. Yeah, they may not fully understand why Scarlemagne is a danger, which I don't know, maybe they should. I don't know. Hard to say. But like, because of that and that innocence, he's able to sort of understand that like he can be accepted.
Right.
And, you know,
to a point. Right. Which brings us to his apology. I love that his first apology was utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Something about like
I wrote down so many words, lol.
I just
so many words to say. I'm sorry.
Scarlemagne gets on stage and says some nonsense because it's like something about a tree and a summer rain, and everyone is just like, "Huh?" Whatever it is, it's not an apology, right?
It's an extremely florid prose way of being like, there are hard moments in everyone's life.
Yeah, but still not an apology.
You persevere. Definitely not an apology. Absolutely not. Never in that entire thing does he say, I'm sorry. Never in that entire thing does he indicate who he is in this wild scenario he's concocted, even though one of the one of the raccoons. One of the raccoons was like, are you the summer storms?
Yeah, the buff one. I love the buff raccoon. I figured it out. Are you the summer storm? No. But listen, after he, gets pelted by some hairballs, which I thought was fantastic, Kipo gets everyone's attention. We get a take 2 apology, which is a much better apology because it is actually one. Right. And still, the mutes aren't ready to forgive Scarlemagne. Right. Because that's the question. If you offer a genuine apology, is it right to expect someone to forgive you? The answer in this episode is no. And so they're not ready for that yet. But they do acknowledge that this is a huge step in the right direction. And they join H.M.U.F.A.
Yeah. And now Kipo has enough people in the Timbercat village to fill the entire meeting hall.
Yeah.
So that there's no room when they want to sit down to a meal.
And now Scarlemagne is allowed to take a daily walk around Timbercat Village as long as he's supervised, right? Which, coupled with the ending of the wolf arc in this episode, brings us to episode 4, Don't You Forget a Meow Me.
I forgot that's what it was called.
It's actually really hard for me to say the title and not sing the title.
I mean, look, we are who we are. That's fine. It's fair.
But I did it. I said it.
You did. I'm proud of you.
Okay.
Oh, there was, it's, so they get so Zane is like wandering around their village. He gets...
Oh my gosh. Can we discuss, though, how the episode starts? So at the start of the episode, Yum-Yun has taken Dahlia and Asher up to the canopy.
Yes.
To show them how to approach the spirit of the trees, Charles, who... it is revealed is a sentient mute. Charles can talk. It's not the spirit of the trees is not just a butterfly. So anyway, I think they're having, a life-changing journey with Yum-Yun.
Although I do like that, not Dahlia. Who was the other one that he brought up? Asher. I like that Asher brought the axes and was like ready to go to town on the spirit of the tree. And Yum-Yun is like, no, you have to wait. Be patient. And quiet.
Charles is like, nope.
Nah, man, I'm all right. And he starts to fly away, and then they chase him. It's so good. It's so cute.
Charles,
like these little cats in training.
What a good callback. But anyway, that's the really fun way the episode opens. You're right. The more important thing is that they spot Zane sneaking into Timbercat Village and leaving a message for Dr. Amelia.
Yeah. Well, he tries to leave a message, right? And then, Yum-Yun kind of pounces on him and they bring him to Kipo.
I love how his entire body lands on Zane. Just like the
I know. And this is also where I'm just like, Yum-Yun is one of those cats that's all fur.
Yes.
Right? Like his body is like your cat, Appa. Like he looks big, but he's not as big as you think.
If you get him wet, he's actually smaller than all of the other cats. Yeah, because otherwise Zane would be super dead.
I know. Every time Yum-Yun flops onto something, because he does this to the kids all the time, but the kids are also mutes and they're like the size of Zane, right? So it's just so funny to me because he flops on these kids and they're like, fine. And I'm like, okay. So this tells me that Yum-Yun either doesn't put all of his weight down, he finds a good balance, or he is not that heavy.
Probably some combination of both, because he is big. He is a very big cat.
He's 7 feet tall.
It doesn't matter. Like that.
Listen to the song. There's a Yum-Yun song. Listen to it. It'll tell you. So they capture Zane. They bring Zane to Kipo. And Zane tells them that they have Wolf, Benson, and Dave.
Yeah.
And Dr. Amelia, is going to execute them unless Kipo comes and takes the cure.
Yes. There's Kipo's first impulse, which is to run off immediately and get Dr. Amelia. Fortunately, Song is there to stop her.
Yes. Yeah. I think I actually wrote down Kipo tries to run off to the rescue.
Yes!
It does not work.
Kipo to the rescue! Okay, and here the episode branches into two parts, right? Because Song gets Kipo back. Kipo acknowledges it's probably better for her to not just rush headlong into this situation because, Dr. Amelia is always 2 steps ahead of her. So half of the episode is Leo, Yum-Yun, and a surprise third character who we'll talk about in a little bit, and Kipo working together to try and come up with a plan. And the other half of the episode is that Song tries to give Kipo a suggestion, can't, and so needs to spend the rest of the episode putting her message together and attempting to find a way to communicate with Kipo.
Which Scarlemagne helps her do, which I absolutely adore.
Okay, which half of this episode should we talk about first?
Well, I think the song Scarlemagne is going to be pretty quick. So why don't we talk about the Kipo plan attempt Matrix moment?
Yes.
Yes.
The Matrix moment.
So what happens is Kipo, Zane is asking for food and water, one of those, you're mistreating me in your prison, I'm a prisoner and I have rights kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's also insisting that, you're never going to break me. My mind is in a vault and there's a key in a second vault. And, and they're like, all right.
Which, of the two, of Greta and Zane, if you captured Zane, I believe that Zane wouldn't tell you hardly anything, and Greta might actually spill the beans.
Yeah, by accident. No, you're not wrong.
By accident.
You're not wrong.
It is good that they sent Zane on this mission.
Dr. Amelia knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing. She's a smart cookie. Although, I don't know, we could have had slightly smarter henchmen, but here we are.
Here we are.
So Zane is like, you will never break me. And so Kipo gets this sort of hard look on her face and is like, let me get you that water. And I knew instantly exactly what she was doing.
Oh, yeah. It's a Mulholland episode.
Yeah, surprise.
I'm so happy Mulholland is back. I think Mulholland is actually my favorite set. I don't know. Like, outside of the A-Team. Outside of the A-Team.
Sure.
You know? Because if you made me choose between Dave and Mulholland, I'd be like, but let's just outside of the A-Team. I don't know, though, but Yum-Yun. Okay, he's tied. Mulholland and Yum-Yun are tied as my favorite characters outside of the A-Team.
That's fair. That's fair. I would accept that.
Because
that makes sense.
Mulholland is just so cute. Like, I know we've already said this, but he's cute in a super ominous way.
Oh, he's, like, horrifying.
Yes.
But also adorable.
Like,
it's so hard to explain.
When his voice splits into multiple voices, when he's talking about how he's a collection of tardigrades, and then, like, his body splits and it comes back together, I'm like, that's actually very scary.
Yeah. Actual horror.
Rawr,
this is an actual... Oh, forgot my hat. You know.
Zoop.
And I think part of that is also, like, the voice actor doing some amazing work. Mm-hmm. And, like, this sort of smooth jazz. Like, for a while in the 20, like, the 20 teens, we got these, like, very soft-spoken sort of bad guys. You know, like, I keep thinking about Thanos and being this soft-spoken dude who, like, barely raises his voice.
Yeah, very stoic,
and, like,
right?
Yeah, and it's like just a very specific kind of quote-unquote bad guy. Mm-hmm. And I mean, again, Mulholland is, like, because this show isn't about the villains, not really. Like, it's about Kipo and how she changes people. And so, like, Mulholland could easily be a villain that would be absolutely difficult to take down. Mm-hmm. But what has happened to Mulholland is now he eats food, like people eat food. I love this moment because I was also like, hey, guess what? I guess he doesn't feed on brains anymore. I guess you're welcome. But, like,
because he, like, picks up a hot dog from one of the tables and just absorbs it into his belly. Like, whoop, I'm stress
and then
eating.
He's fine.
And then he's fine.
And I do feel better.
Yeah, because, now he knows that people are different from food, and he doesn't have to dissolve people in order to eat. He can just dissolve food, which still begs the question, kind of like in a Zootopia sense, what's the hot dog made of? But we can assume not a talking animal.
We can assume not a talking animal, I think. I think that rule of the surface.
Yeah,
that particular
but, like,
wolf rule of the surface.
But, like, Mondu is ham, right? Can we all agree that Mondu is ham? So what's in the hot dog?
What's in the hot dog? I know. No, it's exactly like you said. It's a Zootopia problem, and we'll never know. We'll never know the answer to these questions. But so Mulholland is there. He figures out what the plan is. He understands it all, and he starts explaining it to Kipo, where basically your friends are, held captive. There's a bomb. It's going to go off in a certain amount of time, and also Dr. Amelia has the cure because of some fur that got left behind, and she was able to synthesize this cure based on your DNA.
I love that you were 100% correct on how little they're going to explain this. I think that Mulholland's literally said they took DNA from your fur and scienced it into a cure. And I was like, yes.
I know. I was like, look, if you're looking for an explanation, the show is not that. It gives you some science. Like, the show is not completely without its science. But, like, the important pieces
she scienced it into a cure. That's important.
She scienced it into a cure because Dr. Amelia wants to fix animals because she thinks there's something wrong with them. Mm-hmm. And there isn't. Like, that's the important point.
Yeah.
Well, like, whatever the DNA cure or whatever. It's like what you were saying last time where it's like, isn't she a doctor? What does she do? What are we even talking about? What is X?
And you were like,
and we'll never know.
Think about it. Don't think about it too hard.
Well, we'll never know. We'll never know. And that's okay. It's okay. So Mulholland is like explaining, and then he sort of gets to a point where he's like, why don't I just show you? And he like links up their brains, which Yum-Yum was especially funny because Yum-Yum was like, please, I hate water. No. Because cat. He links up their brains in sort of this connected matrix-like space where he can show them the memory he found in Zane's brain of like, this is the plan, right? This is the plan that Dr. Amelia has for you. And so what happens is Mulholland is like, okay, let's do a simulation. What are you going to do? What's your option? Okay, that she's going to shoot you there. This is how she gets you here. And they just constantly go through these simulations. And Kipo has
a little Star Trek.
Kipo is still I know. It's a little like a holodeck. Like a let's try that again and again and again.
Until
it's
we pass the
Groundhog
test.
Day.
Okay.
It's kind of technically like a little bit Groundhog Day episode because of the nature of what's going on. But like what we see is Kipo is trying to force and this doesn't work with Kipo. We've seen this before where like Kipo is trying to force herself to be calm and focused and not angry and not, want to go running off into the, to fight the big thing. And she tries to force herself to like pay attention, to focus, to like be zen about it, just ignore it, try to push it down, try to rage out. Like every time she tries to change her anger in a way that she thinks will be productive, it really doesn't help.
Because she's just so focused on her emotions, right?
Exactly.
Like,
she's
it didn't
too
work
focused
to be calm, so why don't I be aggressive? Now, to be fair, Yum did push her in that direction accidentally.
I know. I do like that Yum was like, was that what I said?
That's how she took it, so I guess that's what we're doing.
Somewhere between Yum and Leo, they like try to guide her one way or another. But it's just like, this isn't working. Like, these conversations are not helping. And I think
Leo does eventually help her get there, I think.
Yes. Well, I mean, what really helps her get there is finally hearing what her mom has to tell her. And I think it's this really interesting connection that... I don't know. I don't know if this is reaching or overthinking too much, but I love that it's her mom that gives her the final piece of this puzzle. Yeah. Of like that connection that you have with for Kipo, it's her mother, but I'm going to say that like an emotional child has a connection with their emotional parent that is different, I think, from the other parent or from the other adults in their life. They have a very specific connection with that parent who literally understands because let's face it, between Leo and Song is the one that's going to run off and punch somebody in the face. Like, yeah.
Song is also the one who is going to be a little bit more tactical when it comes to how to take down our enemies. Right. Like
she's also had more time.
That's not really Leo.
True. But she's also had more time with her emotions to understand that, like, you can't always go running off and punch somebody in the face. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and the benefit of being a mother and a parent.
And she's had a lot of time to think about how she would take Dr. Amelia down.
Exactly.
Because I'm sure that was front of minds, too.
All about that. Song is all about the revenge on Dr. Amelia. And... I just think it's like this really specific bond that she has with her mom that's funny because like I say that about this episode, even though, and I think we can talk about, well, I mean, to quickly wrap up what Mulholland is trying to do, he takes them through all these simulations. None of them really work. He brings up the point where like, hey, the problem if I get hit with the cure is I could rain down and cure a bunch of other mutes. Accidentally. And that, like, he would have no control over it because he would be cured. And, like, nobody wants that.
Yeah. And he's not wrong. So I think the show was pretty clever in that they were able to just get a pretty OP character out of the fight, but in a way that made sense narratively.
In a way that made sense. And I think, this goes back to something you said in one of our earlier episodes where, like, these characters are so close to being perfect or they're so close to being so OP that it's like, well, why wouldn't you take them everywhere you go? Right. And it's like, no, actually, they have flaws or they have things that are specific to them that, like, especially with Mulholland, that, like, if he gets cured, that's it. Everyone else could be cured. It's, and we can't take that chance. Yeah. And, of course, he's scared and he doesn't want to leave. But he's like, look, I need to be as far away from this fight as possible. And he leaves with
And
his
he
little
leaves.
with his little bindle.
Almost forgot my hat. Zoop.
Soup. Almost forgot my hat. Soup. And like he unfortunately leaves, like, you know, there's a ticking clock, and like he leaves before they get the simulation right. And, you know, Kipo is sort of like, well, maybe we can, you know, catch her off balance with something, like maybe I'm not leading this charge, you know, like they're still kind of trying to figure it out. Like they have a small game plan, but they don't really have something that they know is going to work.
Yeah, I know. I mean, basically all they have is, if we don't start walking now, we're not going to make it in time. And so they just kind of start going. And that is when Scarlemagne and Song and re-enter the scene. Should we go back and talk about Scarlemagne and Song?
Yes.
We should. I love Scarlemagne and Song, and I'm so pleased that this show gave me this really unexpected duo. I have to be just a tiny bit upset about the fact that there was an extremely easy fix to all of this, and that was to have Mulholland go into Song's mind. We already know that when Mulholland goes into Song's mind, he can literally see and speak to and have a conversation with a human version of her. And they used Mulholland in half of the episode, but not in the other half of the episode. And so she was forced to communicate via a lot of other things. I'm not upset. I'm not terribly upset because I'm so happy with what we got. But really, Joy, that would have been a very easy fix.
I'm a little mad that I didn't think of that also.
Made especially terrible by the fact that Mulholland is in the rest of this episode. Like, it's not like I'm just saying, like, why didn't they call him? Like, he was right there. They're using him to communicate with someone who refuses to speak with them, and so they just read his mind.
I know. I think it's a product of, like, there's also that unfortunate, you know, when there's like a language barrier and you tend to, I mean, like, I think this is just, again, this is a very human thing where, like, if there's something getting in the way of communication, especially when it comes to language, because, like, you know, especially us Americans, because no way they're not American at this point. There's too many American traits. But, like, there's, you know, it's a very specific barrier. And I think it's so easy to dismiss somebody that you can't talk to.
Right.
And I can really only speak to that as, you know, as an American, right? Who actually, as a child, I was somewhat bilingual because I was brought up around non-English speaking people. So I would occasionally say words in Japanese, which I think is kind of a fascinating point. But, like, if you have somebody who doesn't speak your language, it's really easy to dismiss them because it's like, how do you speak? How do you talk to each other? And, like, the beginning of this episode is just Song being like, I mean, you know, Song was able to stop Kipo, but then she wasn't able to tell her, like, but this is how you defeat Dr. Amelia. And she gets really frustrated. And not only Kipo dismisses her, but Leo dismisses her. Yeah. And Leo is just like, I got it from here. You know, like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. And it's like, that's not what Song is trying to tell you. You know, and she gets frustrated and she walks away. And she's stomping around in the forest. This is what I mean. It's like she is the emotional one. Yes. She is the one that is just like, why can't I talk to my daughter? you know, like thrashing around in the woods. And Scarlemagne is just, could you tiptoe? Please.
All he's been hearing for hours is banjo music. When you are Scarlemagne, there's no more torture than banjo music all day and all night. And so he's finally trying to nap, and Song wakes him up, so he gets up. And they strike a deal, you know? Song gets Scarlemagne to agree to help her in return for a favor, which I love that her face is like, I don't know. And he's like, don't worry, the favor isn't let me go.
Yeah. I love that that's instantly like, I know what you're thinking. That's not what I want. I promise. I won't ask you for that.
Tries a few things. He tries the blocks first because that's what they tried with him. And they don't work because blocks are way too small. Then they try...
small for her. She can't even read them. No.
Then they try charades, or charades, as Scarlemagne would say. And they spend a very long time playing a very complicated game of charades in order to ascertain Song's message.
I love that, you know, like, Song is trying to convey an extremely difficult concept. And like, I'm sure you, as somebody who deals with, speech in your day job and like communication and like these are not easy concepts to do in charades. Like, it's like trying to explain believe yourself with hand puppets, like believe in yourself,
So for anyone who hasn't watched this recently, the message ultimately was let her think she's won and then crush her.
Yeah.
Which, how she got that across?
I know. This is what I'm saying. I'm like, we didn't see that. We didn't see like the final event, right? Like, we didn't see the final machinations of putting it all together. But like, we definitely got a somewhat harried, Scarlemagne of just like, this took so many rounds of shots. And, it's such a good message because it's just, Scarlemagne reads that and then Kipo is like, right, but what does that mean?
Yeah, I think that what I just read was actually Scarlemagne's interpretation of Song's message, right? Because it's much more than crush her, Yeah. I think that Song's message was more like use, I actually didn't even write down her actual message.
The then crusher? No. The then crusher was in Song's original message.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
but the beginning of it, the beginning of it was something more like, instead of getting all upset, use Dr. Amelia's own feelings against her.
Yes.
And then once you, lull it out of her, then you can crush her. And Kipo is just like, right, but what does that mean? And like, the good news is you have 3 people here who know Song very well. I mean, technically 4 if you want to count Zane, but we're not counting Zane. No, not at all. And Scarlemagne is like, well, Dr. Amelia is extremely like pompous and full of herself, and she thinks she's right. And that's, you have to make her believe she's won, and then that's it. Then you can take it from her. And of course, Kipo is looking at the piece of bark that he wrote this message on and is like, can I borrow that?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes. Now we go in with, I am going to assume that I am going to get shot no matter what I do.
That's
so what
so
do
great.
I do?
I'm so glad she finally got there. Because like, how many times did we watch that simulation with the dart hit her smack in the middle of the chest? And I was like, armor.
Were you saying that?
Armor. I legit was.
Oh, look at you.
I was not as upset about how long it took her to get there because I understand why she as a character would take longer to get there. I was not as upset about that as I was about the lack of use of Mulholland
fair.
in this situation. But I was like, armor. It was also annoying that she always got hit by the second dart. Like, she would dodge the first one and then always get hit by the second one. And I was like, girl, there are 2 darts. You dodge twice, then lunge.
I
know?
It was definitely a very like, not frustrating, but like by the end of it, you could feel their frustration.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure it was more frustrating to you because
emotions are all tangled up in it. It was a little bit frustrating for me, but it also felt like listen, as someone who plays video games but is not great at them, I have absolutely had to save like at the beginning of a fight scene and like had to figure out a way to dodge around in a way that works for me so that I can survive. And my brain will literally do things like, all right, I know there's 2 of these coming up. So you're going to dodge that twice, then you're going to duck behind this, and then you're going to lunge, And I was like, I don't understand why she's not playing this out more. I don't understand why she would do the same thing over and over and over again. Why do you think that would work?
I know. I feel like I wrote down in my notes that like Kipo does these simulations like the way I play video games, which is to like go charging in and like die 10 times before I'm like, okay, I need a different strategy.
Like if I charge forward harder, maybe this time it will work.
What if I ran faster and got shot more? Like it's so dumb. It's so dumb. And I'm like, no, she plays video games like the way I play video games, 100%. So
there are 2 kinds of people.
Like,
no,
there's the 2 genders. So she wears armor. We do the plan. She is the one inside. Dr. Amelia shoots her. She gets it right in the chest. We think she's got. And, we have Leo coming up from behind to get that second dart. and everything's going really well. It's like, and Dr. Amelia, do you want to take it?
Oh,
She starts.
It's, well, even before that, right? Like even, well, kind of throughout that. Okay, so you're right. Kipo takes it to the chest, right? And Benson, Dave, and Wolf are tied up, you know, underneath the nectar bomb. And from their perspective, which I actually really enjoy, we see from their perspective, they see like Yum-Yum's kind of ducking around a corner. They see Leo is pickpocketing Dr. Amelia. And so they join in on getting Dr. Amelia to monologue.
Yeah. Like, she starts monologuing. It's so funny because it happens so quickly.
Kipo and like, catches her monologuing.
Yes. She starts monologuing and that's it. It's over. And I love the instantaneous, like, song's plan is suddenly extremely clear.
Yes.
Like, this is exactly how you take out Dr. Amelia.
She thought she won. She got cocky. And then everyone else, fantastic fight scene, right? Yum-Yum is battling Greta. Leo has the second dose. Kipo and Amelia are fighting over the first dose. Now, the fight is not altogether successful. So it is semi-successful in that Kipo herself was not cured.
Right. They managed to chase away, you know, Greta and Dr. Amelia.
I mean, they escape down a tunnel and blow up the tunnel behind them, right? So Dr. Amelia and Greta have just escaped, right?
True.
But the 2 doses of the cure are gone.
I think it's because 2 doses of the cure are gone, but also I think my brain was like, how many times can you blow up this lab and have it still be useful?
True. Very true.
You know what I mean? Like, this lab, this is by the way, for those of you who haven't necessarily seen it recently, this is the lab that we started with Dr. Amelia in. So it's like, why aren't we posting like mute sentries, you know, or human sentries to be like, hey, Dr. Amelia, you're not welcome here anymore, you know?
I mean, you know, now that they have a largish army, maybe they'll be able to spend their resources. But
maybe just keep them spread out. But the thing we're avoiding talking about, because it was really hard to watch, is one of the doses of vaccine. That's how you know I've been in a pandemic too long. One of the doses of the cure ends up sort of spiraling over to where Yum-Yum and Greta are fighting.
And it's so sad because it was one of those moments where the dart was shot towards Kipo. And Wolf, like, cleverly flicks it away so that it doesn't hit Kipo. So it's almost like victorious moment, and then the other shoe drops.
Yeah. And it sort of wanders near Yum-Yum and Greta, and what's revealed is that Yum-Yum has been dosed.
Yep.
And, you know, we sort of get to see how this works, and, like, Yum-Yum gets a little lethargic, and, like, he's a little slow. It's harder to walk, and it's like, you get the feeling that he like, and because he's such a good character, like he's, you know, he even said earlier in the episode of like, you know, you taught me how to be courageous, essentially is what he said. So, you know, and I know you're going to do a good job. Yeah. And like, he knows what's about to happen and he doesn't, you know, he doesn't draw it out. He doesn't, you know, he just tells her what he needs to tell her.
Yeah. And he's not scared. He says it's not her fault. He knew what he was getting into. And then he tells them to tell the tales of Yum-Yum.
Yes.
And then in kind of like an oddly bittersweet moment, because he is just so cute, is all of a sudden a kitten. Like, I acknowledge that it's sad.
He's all of a sudden a house cat.
I acknowledge that it's sad, and I definitely teared up a little bit, but then also him and his little snaggletooth are so cute.
I know.
And, you know, I'm still holding out hope because this show is this show that they're going to be able to reverse it. Because I just, like, on some level, they're not going to leave Yum-Yum in that state. I don't know that they're going to leave Song in that state. Like, I don't know. I feel like, and, you know, they have a lot of science people. Sciencey people will figure it out.
I mean, and that's also where that is too, right? But I like that this show doesn't shy away from sort of the harder scenes. And even though something could be really difficult to watch or have a lot of impact or be really emotional or, just be in general like a very extreme, almost dark moment, it still somehow manages to be light and fluffy.
Yeah.
And like,
because there's almost like an interesting positive backdrop to all of this, because they make the scene more emotional, because the music that's going through the scene is Scarlemagne's favor. Because remember, he asked for a favor. The favor was not to let him go. The favor is that he wants his piano. And so now he has his piano in the cage, and everyone is just listening in to this gorgeous music. And that's the background that's going on as Yum-Yin is regressing to his non-mute self.
I know, it's so sad. And the song that Scarlemagne is playing is a classical dramatical version of Yum-Yin Hammerpaw.
Yeah. Yum-Yin.
Yum-Yin Hammerpaw. It's on the soundtrack. Oh man, I have trouble listening to it.
Because it's like an ode to him. It's genuinely sad. It's genuinely sad. I think I cried more here than I did at the end of that other episode that got super emotional. Because I think it was just more, it was a little bit more surprising than the end of season 2. Like, I knew that the end of season 2 was coming, and I was able to kind of prepare myself for it. This I was not.
Yeah, I mean, this is in the middle of a season, right? Like, and we know the cure is out there, but we haven't seen how it works. And this is the first time it happens. And it happens to one of the first mutes that Kipo ever meets.
Yes.
You know, and definitely the first to accept her into their clan, you know, and I know we're a little bit over time, so we should definitely get to one more things. But I really like that it doesn't shy away from moments like that. That this show is, you know, kids watching it, you know, like preteens and teens and like young adults watching it can still have this like, you know, shock and, you know, almost like fear moment, but still have that like softness so that you get that combination of emotions and you don't necessarily have to be like afraid at every single thing. I don't know. I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, me too.
Do you know what your one more thing is? I think I have my one more thing.
Okay, do you want to go first? Go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. So there is a moment where Margot shows up and Wolf is like, how did you know we were here? And Margot says there's a traveling theater of otters who has been singing your song and it has your address in it.
It says your address and everything.
It's got your address and everything. And I love this moment of like, why are you surprised?
Right.
That anybody just
everyone where to find H.M.U.F.A. Doxed by the otters. Awful.
Right? I know.
Okay, mine, I have one quick one, which is a Dave quote, because I feel that we haven't done enough Dave quotes in this podcast episode. So I'm going to say a Dave quote, and then I have a second one more thing. So my favorite Dave quote is, "You are about to feel the wrath of the human mute So what does the U stand for?
Human Mute Unification Friendship Alliance?
Dude. Okay. Then he says, "Despite our welcoming name, we bring the pain."
Yeah. It is a very good quote. And from the same scene as mine.
Yes, that's what reminded me of it. I was like, aha, Dave quote. We should probably just quote Dave. Okay, but my actual one more thing is that in addition to Scarlemagne going through what he's going through and having this, you know, kind of lovely arc that he gets through in these couple of episodes, they also just let him snarkily comment on what everyone around him is doing while he's in his cage, and I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I love his snarky commentary.
I mean, snark all day. I enjoy it also.
Am I crazy to try? No. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's over, but you're both still alive.
But you're both still alive. I like when everybody starts booing him and he's like, boo, boo you all also, boo.
Oh, Scarlemagne. Sounds like feelings. Why does everyone have those?
Oh, feelings again. Why is it always feelings?
Oh, Scarlemagne. Love it. Love the snark. Okay.
I know.
Did we do it?
I think so. I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we talked about all the things and only a little bit over time. Look at us.
Yeah. Somewhere in the chaos was a good podcast episode.
You're welcome.
Okay, so with that, everyone, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, what do you think should be the next rule of the surface? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BachPod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.